time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, she's. It's amazing what kids will do.
You take the brick off their heads,
So
they just
let's,
shoot right
we're
up.
going way back. You know, along the course of the Heartland's history, there was another venue out there that we have a lot of respect for, and that was called the Hot House.
Yeah.
And that's something that Marguerite was one of the founders of.
And kept it together down there on South Loop for many years, and many great, incredible nights of culture, of sharing, of fellowship, of community building.
So Marguerite, tell us a little bit about the history of the Hot House, and then we'll go to your next endeavor, and you two will share some info on that, and then we'll go back to the Hot House.
Thanks, Mike. I just want to say I'm very pleased and honored to be here. I'm a big fan of the Heartland. I see that you guys are making a lot of improvements and changes, and I'm happy to see it's going to the next generation.
So are we.
You know, and I'm also, you know, we're all kind of small business and combining our love of people and culture and movements with, you know, with trying to give it over to the next generation. So, you know, I think we also started around the same time. I came sort of after you guys, but influenced by, mayor, you know, the first black mayor, Harold Washington, and our first program was the All Chicago Artist Tribute to Harold Washington. So that's sort of what got us going back in '87.
Wow.
When he died, unfortunately, and we're sort of back at the same moment, trying to figure out how to make positive changes in the city, and you know, foster a climate that's fair and equitable. And what I think our basic mission is trying to find great people from around the world, great culture, great artists, great intellectuals, great organizers, great thinkers, and try to provide a platform for them to evoke positive change. Want to add anything?
No.
That was very good.
Yeah, that just about said it.
So that's the
Now,
whole point.
if you tilt your chair out a little bit more, people will be able to see your beautiful face. Yeah.
Because
There's
we,
a camera.
you know, we're on Can
Oh,
TV now.
Because
Way too
we're
early.
also on.
Go to Can
Yeah, it's
TV.
not just
Way
radio
too
anymore.
early.
That's why
What do you
we're
mean
so
just
dressed
radio?
up.
I mean, you know, believe me, I loved it when it was just radio. I didn't matter
Going for
what
the
way
TV
I
aspect.
dressed.
I'll have to speak with Paul about Photoshop
go.
later.
Can you Photoshop video?
I think that's it.
Can you Photoshop the video?
I'm sure.
No
I'm
problem.
sure.
You're gonna more glamorous than ever. So
I'm a late night nightclub person. Not,
I
you
just
know.
found out you went to Evergreen State College.
I did.
Yeah.
And did you graduate?
No.
You didn't.
I went around the world.
That's what happens at Evergreen.
That happened to my kid.
I
He just
went
left
around
for a
the world.
band.
I left U.S. 1977, and I went all over the world. I went to Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, with $3,000 in 2 years.
How about next time you go and let me know?
That's really good.
And
Right.
the whole point of
I only lasted 4 months in South America.
the whole point of when I came back, you know, we were right at the dawn of Reagan, and I came back and I said, we need something that really is a place for, you know, people who are these emigrating from Nicaragua, from Honduras, from El Salvador. Mm-hmm. And the whole early Hot House was a place for fundraisers for people who were kind of surviving the Contra Wars, from people who were new to Chicago to do their own cultural programming. So it was one of the first places on Milwaukee Avenue that had primetime programming in Spanish. I think a lot of different spoken word and performance art, and music by folks who are coming from.
It was a stellar room. A stellar room.
Thanks.
I mean, it also housed, just like we did, you know, whenever you have a space and you have community-minded people, there is no end to
imagination.
Well, and the things that people
Creativity.
need a space to do stuff in. And I remember going to Brian Brady's group, Mikva's Challenge training at the Hot House.
Yeah.
We were training kids to be
you know,
election judges.
Right. I mean, Obama had his first fundraiser, one of his first fundraisers there. And anyway, I mean, so that was sort of the genesis back in the 80s. And I came back and I also walked into the Birdhouse, which was Fred Anderson's club on North Lincoln Avenue.
Oh, wow.
And I met Hamid Drake and Fred Anderson and became sort of completely enamored with the music of the AACM. And when the Birdhouse closed, that hot house became sort of a regular showcase for
Those
Roscoe
guys.
Mitchell, Lester Bowie, Malachi Thompson, Malachi Favors. So that was, I think, still to this day, that remains sort of one of the main interests.
I got to be the guy who says, let's get to the hard stuff. The Hot House had a rough patch, as we all of us in progressive cultural areas have. Can you give us a little bit about what happened, how it sort of ended for a while, and then we'll move on to the Portoluz part?
Well, in a nutshell, some people came in that weren't doing everything according to me. I mean, it's hard to be, I'm subjective. So let's say they stole it, they tried to do it themselves. I think they had ulterior real estate motives. 6 months later, it was closed. 6 years later, they let it completely go. We resuscitated the corporation and the name, which I'm glad to say we were able to do. And a lot of the property and archives are still missing. We'd like to get those back, but we're moving forward and we're focused on positive future.
No, I think a lot of us who've been involved in political groups have seen that. You know, I like to point to Lenin's The Role of the Individual in History. Sometimes people who take leadership get knocked off, you know, by the masses, and then sometimes people have to see that it's a dialectical thing. Knocked down. And I think, and sometimes it's deservedly so. So I'm certain people get stronger through these kind of things. But what you did was, and I know there's some people in the house. I saw Kuttner walk in, and Ayana's here. People, you started Portoluz. And why don't you tell us a little bit about Portoluz and what that's all about?
Well, I think Portoluz has a lot of the same motives that Hot House originally had, which is to bring, progressive culture to the people that kind of breaks down the barriers that we all know are in Chicago, kind of inherently. But another thing that Portoluz does, which I'm really attracted to, is it kind of has like a lot of educational programming too. So you can go and you can like talk to people about growing food in an urban environment and other things that kind of go along with progressive culture. You know what I mean? Progressive lifestyle, maybe, in addition to the music and culture and fellowship. So it's like a full lifestyle thing, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, let me know if I'm wrong about this. So we're going to continue to do Hot House, the programming that you know and love, and also add this Portoluz educational element, and that's kind of where the Portoluz brand is going right now.
So the concerts that Portoluz was doing in Michigan, say, are going to move back to the Hot House under the Hot House banner, and more.
Well, I think we're going to try to have both, a place in Michigan and a place in Chicago.
Expansionist you? I think that's great.
I mean, one thing I just want to say about the closing, about the individual thing, like, a lot of people say, like, I am Hot House, which I think has got some problems with saying that, but one of the things I thought was really the tragedy was not so much me personally, but the collective asset that place was, and how much people invested in that, how many people contributed to that. It was really like 20 years of people doing what they could to make that place happen. So I always felt like the loss of that the crime was really not so much me, but the loss of that institution. And so that's really what we're trying to collectively, and not just me, bring back to the city, is that, we just did a survey. 90% of people surveyed said there's a void without Hot House. This is 7 years later. And so that's really a remarkable kind of statistic. And so, I know we're kind of short on time, so I'll get to the punchline. I mean, this is going to take probably a year and a half to opening day. And we really want as many people who had fond memories or even who were intrigued by the idea to get in touch with us and to collectively restore to Chicago kind of a permanent, sustainable we call it a compound for, progressive culture. That's
Are you looking to have a permanent location?
We're trying to buy property. We have our eye on a piece of property on the near south side, and it's going to have a performing arts center, restaurant, green space, artist in residency, and bodega.
And a daycare center?
After you
How about
guys.
a
So much for
daycare
passing it on to the next
Come on, we
generation.
need a daycare center
You're going to
as
have
well.
all that there.
Well,
It sounds familiar.
this
I
is
love it.
Chicago.
Sounds very familiar.
Make no little plans,
Yeah,
This
make
is
no little
Chicago.
plans. Well, shine on.
Let me ask Ayana, what do you do on Vocalo, and what is your radio show all about?
I produce 3 shows, actually. My personal show is called Reclaim Soul. It's all vinyl records, and I really focus on records that came out of Chicago. So everybody from Coco Taylor to, yes, I mentioned Coco Taylor because I love her. I think she was an amazing, amazing artist. But Coco Taylor all the way over to like Ahmad Jamal, just like everybody, the gamut. And then the stories behind it. So I had Otis Clay on my show, for instance, and just,
man,
all
cool.
that. Very cool. And then
Do you do it down at the station?
I do at Navy Pier, and then I produce a show in North Lawndale hosted by Richard Steele that's called The Barbershop Show.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. That's excellent.
He's fantastic.
He is fantastic.
And then a show called Practically Speaking, which
I just had this idea. They have this jazz workshop for high school students at the Cultural Center.
Okay.
And so I'm just thinking there's lots of wonderful musicians coming along in this town.
As always.
Yeah. We
As
are
always.
wonderful, and hopefully they'll stick around like some of
that's
them.
the key.
Yeah, rather than going to L.A., New York,
Well, I think-
Atlanta.
yeah.
I think nowadays people stay in Chicago as much as anything because the music is everywhere. It's in the air.
Yeah. I think that one of the challenges we face is whether this is a Chicago for the taxpayers or it's the global city that, removes the tax, puts us out in Cicero. And,
Do you have some
and,
criticisms of the government by chance?
No, I'm trying to build a permanent, sustainable business.
Well, and the other thing with Portoluz is that it's creating another alternative venue, because that's really why a lot of artists leave, because now, you're not making money off of the record. You're making money off of the performances and the merchandise and stuff. And so if there's not, a plethora of venues all over the city, south side, west side, where you can make some real money, then you go where, your bread
Yeah,
is
it's
buttered.
true. I mean, it's like...
The other thing that I think is important that we try to, do as much as we can is international cultural exchange. We're in the middle of a huge project this year called the Son Jarocho International Exchange, bringing 17 artists from Mexico and sending Jarocho artists from Pilsen down to Veracruz to study the culture. So, one of the things that we've seen sort of disappear under this administration is the world music at Millennium Park, and kind of the it's very difficult with visas and taxation questions to continue to do cultural diplomacy, which is really part of our world peace strategy. Yeah.
It's part of your mission.
Marguerite, how do people get a hold of you, the Hot House, Portoluz?
www.portoluz.org, Facebook, Hot House Facebook page, Portoluz Facebook page.
And spell Portoluz.
Portoluz, or Hot House, HOTHOUSE.
And Ayana, how do they get a hold of you?
Google
turn on
me.
their radio.
Actually, you can if you type in Reclaimed Soul in your Google little window, all kinds of stuff will pop up. It's pretty cool.
Great. Let's have a big round of applause for these two wonderful women.
Thanks for on, you guys.
We're going to take a short musical break. We're going to hear something from Coco Taylor, and then we'll be right back with a big treat. We've got Cookie Taylor, Coco's daughter, coming on up. Be right back with more Live from the Heartland here on 88.7, Chicago Sound Alliance.
They call me Voodoo Mama.
Give her a hand up.
Yeah.
Lynn, get up here.
Come up here. She's on the board.
Only thing is, you gotta remember to look at
I got a black spider bone. Hey, don't do it, baby. You better leave it all alone. Hey,
15 minutes.
voodoo woman. And I know the reason.
5, 4, 3, and we're back with Live from the Heartland, coming to you as we do every Saturday morning between 9 and 10 from the stage at the corner of London Glenwood, the beautiful Heartland Cafe, where people are noshing down while we
Hallelujah.
talk a lot of culture here this morning. We are so honored to have sitting right up here with us Miss Cookie Taylor.
Thank you. And I'm honored to be here this morning.
Welcome to the Heartland.
And she brought her
Thank
husband
you.
with her, and they're the two best dressed people we've ever had up here on the stage.
Well, there you go.
That's my